Hey, I'm Mike Smith. I'm the author of kitty-scrollback.nvim, and in today's lightning talk, I'll be discussing the development of the plugin and lessons learned. Before I jump into the talk, a little bit about me. I'm a senior software engineer with a focus on back-end and platform development. I've used Vim in some capacity for the last 10 years and have been all in on Neovim the last year. If you're not familiar with Kitty, Kitty is just a terminal emulator similar to that of WesTerm or iTerm. One nice feature about Kitty is it exposes the scrollback buffer so that you can integrate it with external tools. So out of the box, it does this with less. And basically, Kitty scrollback in Vim is trying to replace that with Neovim so you can natively use Neovim to navigate your scrollback history. For example, here it shows you the command you'd use to use less and also some alternatives. And there's a really nice plugin listed here, Kitty scrollback in Vim, and that's what we're going to check out today. I mentioned opening the scrollback buffer a couple times. Let me show you what that actually looks like. Here I have kitty-conf open. This is just a verbose version of the defaults for Kitty at the moment. And if I navigate back to a window where I'm listing a directory, I can just hit that keyboard shortcut and now I'm in less. I can search, navigate, and do a bunch of things. But the first thing you probably notice is all the Unicode characters aren't displaying correctly. If you open up the less help, you'll see there's information about these R flags, raw control characters. And the one that Kitty uses is the capital R, and this displays all your ANSI color codes. There's also another option is to use a lowercase r, and this will render those Unicode characters. Let me show you what that looks like. So if we come back here, I can just update the configuration. Now I just reloaded the configuration, and if I open it back up again, I'm in less. But like we didn't come here for less. I mean, this isn't less conf, am I right? So right now we're in a really good spot using less as our scrollback pager. So you might think, okay, if I want to use Neovim, I can just plug in NVim. And let me show you what happens if we do that. If I come back over to the config, I can just update the scrollback pager to use Neovim and it with a clean slate, no plugins. Okay, so now we're in Neovim, but it looks pretty much like garbage. So when I was looking into a way to filter out all those ANSI escape color sequences, I came across Balia in Vim, and this does exactly what I wanted. And what I did is I combined that with less to have a really good solution. Back in the config, I'll come over here and I'll save this new option. And you can see here I'm using less and I have a lot more information here. The important thing is actually here. So if I go to my config, you can use less key. And here I mapped V to basically open Neovim and use Balia. We have kitty configured, less key configured, and now let me show you what the configuration actually looks like for Balia NVim. I'm using lazy NVim as my plugin manager. Um, and I'm creating some custom commands, and this is all documented on Balia's website, except I added a couple extra things for this command here, which I called Balia less. If we open up the scrollback pager again, you'll see I'm back in less. This looks exactly the same as before, and it has a little nicer prompt at the bottom now. So if I type V, and now it just basically piped all that output from less into Neovim, and then ran Balia and Vim on top of it with a couple extra commands. Now I'm actually in Neovim. It looks like an actual terminal. So I can come in here, I can edit text, I can type things, edit, delete, whatever I want to do. And just to show you what actually happened, if I hit undo, you can see, okay, this is what I was looking at before. All these escape sequences are here. The first approach I took for kitty scrollback in Vim was pretty simple. Basically, write the scrollback buffer to a temporary file, and then read that temporary file from Neovim and send that data to an internal Neovim terminal. Let me show you what that looks like. In this case, I have a specific branch actually checked out on my machine, but the same as before, I'll just update the config. And a key difference here is instead of using the built-in scrollback pager, I'm actually launching a shell script. This is what it looks like now. So now I'm in Neovim, I'm in my scrollback buffer. I can move around, select text, do different things. So the first approach was good. One thing I really didn't like was a temporary file. So I started looking into alternative ideas. The idea now is basically the kitten would start up Neovim listening on a Unix domain socket, and I could communicate to Neovim by sending message pack RPC calls. So loop through the standard in, send that to Neovim remotely, and then at the end, connect to the UI and display that to the user. In this example, I also have a Git branch checked out with that specific version of kitty-scrollback.nvim. And I can come here and point to this new method of using the RPC protocol in a remote Neovim session. And when I load it, it looks good. It loads, everything's pretty much the same as the last video. I can yank some text, do those things. That worked pretty well, but the problem really came into place when I had a large scrollback history. As you can see now, when I open up Kitty Scrollback in Vim, it's just loading. But once it was done loading, it opens up and now I'm actually in Kitty Scrollback in Vim. I can navigate and move around. It still works, but it's pretty terrible. Okay, so where are we at now with Kitty Scrollback in Vim? Basically, I scratched that whole idea of trying to use the remote Neovim session. And as I was reading the docs, I came across a lot of these remote calls I can make to Kitty, specifically get text. And get text is basically doing what I wanted. It's getting a Kitty Windows scrollback buffer and history. And I could use that to, instead of doing this remote call, I can just start Neovim, and within Neovim itself, I can have my Lua code reach out to Kitty, get the text, and then put it into the terminal. To show you what it looks like in its current state, I can come back to the config, and in this case, I'm not actually going to do anything because I'm no longer going to use this J shortcut. I'll scroll up here and I'll show you that now I'm doing this new approach, which is all listed on the setup instructions, and I'm just calling kitty scrollback directly. If I open up the history now, this is the latest version of kitty scrollback in Vim, and if I yank text here, it's going to open up what I call a paste window. Now I can come in here and I can edit commands and do different things. If you see at the bottom, there's a little uh, footer that tells you different keyboard shortcuts. So I can toggle this with G question mark. And then if I wanted to execute this command, I just hit Control Enter. And now I'm back inside Kitty. I just executed that command. If I just wanted to execute a command, I just have to enter insert mode. So I can do A for append, I for insert, and now I have the space window. Now I'm back into Kitty, and I'll come back into scrollback buffer. So say I just wanted to yank the text, I didn't really want to open that paste window, I can just do leader key yank, and you can see here it copied it, and I can just execute that if I wanted to. There's also a couple different options when you want to execute the command versus just pasting the command. If I wanted to put this into the terminal but not actually execute it, I can either do Shift Enter. I'm going to Control C that because I don't want to execute that. Or I could come in here and I could just write the paste buffer. This is the same effect, just two different ways of doing it. So this is really nice, maybe you're in your terminal and you accidentally run a command incorrectly and you need to go in and fix that with the superior editor, you would just come in here and do something like this. I hope you have enjoyed this talk. If you have any questions or comments, come over to GitHub, create an issue, and I'll take a look.